Here's how fear shaped the greatest empires in history. Picture yourself in the heart of ancient Rome, standing amidst the colossal Colosseum. Thousands cheer as a gladiator falls to the ground, his fate sealed by the emperor's simple hand gesture. Now ask yourself, what kept this empire standing for centuries? Was it power? Was it wealth? No, it was fear. Fear of enemies, fear of rebellion, fear of losing control. From the Persians to the Mongols, from Rome to Napoleon, history's greatest empires thrived not just on strategy and conquest, but on a carefully orchestrated system of fear. But what happens when that very force turns against its rulers? When fear, once an empire's strongest weapon, becomes its fatal weakness. In 331 BC, Darius III, the king of the Persian Empire, faced an unprecedented threat, Alexander the Great. By then, Persia had already dominated vast territories, ruling over millions with an iron grip. But Alexander's reputation had spread like wildfire. Tales of his unstoppable army, his genius military tactics, and his ruthless efficiency instilled fear not just in his enemies, but even within Persia's own ranks. As Alexander's forces advanced, paranoia gripped Darius's generals. He had the advantage, superior numbers, stronger fortifications, but fear had already infected his troops. Soldiers deserted, allies hesitated, and in the Battle of Gaugamela, Darius made the fatal mistake of fleeing in panic. His empire, once feared across the world, crumbled. Not because of brute strength, but because fear had already won before a single sword was drawn. The Roman Empire, arguably one of the greatest civilizations in history, was built upon a foundation of fear. From gladiator fights to brutal crucifixions, Rome didn't just rule, it controlled through terror. Take Emperor Nero, infamous for his cruelty. He knew that fear was the key to maintaining power. When a fire ravaged Rome in 64 AD, he blamed the Christians, initiating one of the most brutal persecutions in history. The people, terrified of punishment, complied with his rule, believing that questioning authority meant death. But fear doesn't just oppress the ruled, it corrupts the rulers. As Rome expanded, emperors became paranoid. They executed senators, assassinated generals, and turned on their own families. The fear that had once controlled the masses began to consume the empire itself. Eventually, internal paranoia, constant civil wars, and betrayal led to Rome's decline. No empire understood the psychology of fear better than Genghis Khan and the Mongols. They didn't just conquer lands, they made sure their enemies were too terrified to fight back. Before attacking a city, Mongol spies spread stories of entire civilizations being slaughtered. They would send emissaries with a chilling choice: surrender and be spared, or resist and be annihilated. This fear tactic worked so effectively that entire cities surrendered without a single battle. But even the mighty Mongols weren't immune to fear's curse. As their empire grew, internal factions feared betrayal. Power struggles turned into assassinations, and soon, the very foundation of their empire crumbled. Not from an external enemy, but from their own fear of losing control. Fear may build an empire, but it can never sustain one. History proves this time and again. The French monarchy, for instance, ruled through fear, high taxes, absolute power, and ruthless suppression of dissent. But fear is a double-edged sword. When the French people could no longer endure oppression, fear turned into rebellion. The very thing that had once kept the monarchy in power now fueled its destruction. The French Revolution was driven by the same psychological force. Only this time, it was the rulers who trembled. King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, once symbols of untouchable power, were dragged to the guillotine by their own people. The lesson? A government that rules by fear eventually creates people who fear nothing, even death. From Persia to Rome, from Napoleon to colonial rulers, fear has been both the greatest weapon and the deadliest weakness of history's greatest empires. It unites people under a single ruler, but it also breeds paranoia, rebellion, and collapse. So the real question is, will history repeat itself, or will we finally learn that empires built on fear are doomed to fall?